Hey, before we get started, make sure that you check out last Saturday's video because that charity drive has begun.
Serpentor, the most evil foe of G.I.Joe.
Hey, welcome to Half the Battle. Well, we're finally here, folks. The last miniseries of the Sunbow cartoon.
There's gonna be a lot to unpack as we take a look at part 1 of Arise, Serpentor, Arise, and thus the beginning of Season 2. And we start with a brand new opening, though still with the familiar theme tune.
G.I. Joe is there. G.I. Joe, American hero.
Now, take yourself back to the mid-80s. Imagine you're a kid who hasn't really kept up with the toy line, but has been watching the cartoon. And in this new opening, familiar faces are there, but also a whole bunch of new characters. You can't wait to see how they're all introduced.
Well, prepare to be disappointed. Okay, not completely, but we'll get to that.
The episode starts with the Joes having a baseball game and...
Okay, time out.
Arise, Serpentor, Arise Part 1? Up until now, all individual episodes in the miniseries got their own title, like Jewel in the Devil's Cauldron, etc. But this is just Part 1?
Somebody got lazy there.
Anyway, we're eased in with the baseball Joes being mostly familiar faces, but after the ball hits Shipwreck, Hawk shows up with Beachhead, and they act like they've always been there. Same with all the others that are introduced in rapid succession: Leatherneck, Wetsuit, Lowlight, and Sci-Fi. And Sci-Fi here really bothers me. He's the new laser trooper, so the only guy that should have a laser gun, but he's holding what looks like an ordinary M16 rifle that still somehow shoots laser beams.
The layers of stupid here are many.
Also, Cross Country is there. We do finally get the Joe's command structure.
First comes Hawk, then Duke, then me, and finally you.
And Lift Ticket and Lifeline are also introduced.
Cause helping you arm a rescue chopper goes against my principles.
Pacifists in G.I. Joe, what's happening to this outfit?
Doc was a pacifist too, right? And medics being non-combatants isn't weird. There was like a whole TV show about that. With some of the introductions out of the way, Cobra shows up.
Exquisite timing. The Joes have allowed themselves to become soft and weak. This is the last battle android trooper!
And the first character that's actually acknowledged as being new isn't a character at all, as it's the Battle Android Troopers. Back to more rapid-fire introductions as we meet Dial Tone and Mainframe, who are goofing off instead of keeping an eye on the perimeter.
So you won't get the 1,000-yard stare?
Okay, I can't be sure, but I don't think a stun would fit in a school bus, even one that's fake. And so the attack begins.
Rather poor shots, eh, Tomax?
You know, if I was working on a cartoon that's famous for nobody ever getting shot in it, I wouldn't want to draw attention to that fact.
Why is Cobra Commander using stuns? They're fast, but they don't have the armor or the punch of the old his tanks.
Because we've got new toys to sell, Hawk, old boy. Hey, speaking of that...
What are those things?
They look like robots.
Easy blasting, but they don't drop. There ain't no way to make them stop.
At long last, the Joes are doomed, and all because of my superb leadership.
Your bats are currently shooting at your stuns, judging from this scene, superb leader. By the way, considering Hawk's inspection is still going on, Cobra must have a base of operation within short driving distance of G.I. Joe frickin' headquarters. I can't completely make out the name, but I think that says St. Vitus Dance Academy, which is in Canada.
Weird.
Anyway, we finally get a proper introduction for a character that, needs no introduction.
Cobra, attack!
That's Sergeant Slaughter.
On you guys, I could use a little help.
Okay, a few things to unpack here.
First, Cobra's idea of attacking seems to be just them driving at the Sarge and crashing into him. Second, Slaughter abandons his invincible tank so he can fight killer robots hand to hand. Just great strategy all around. What annoys me is that the hand-to-hand combat actually works out. I can't help but think Terminator would have been a lot shorter if they'd just sent back John Cena to F5 the robot. The day is lost for Cobra, and hey, another new character.
The bats were perfect. They would have wiped out G.I. Joe if...
That's a mind bender.
No, the Joes will be on guard.
And I guess we just have to assume he's always been there, just standing right off screen for the first season. And so the story properly starts with one man and his dream.
Literally.
I have had a strange, recurring dream lately.
Confused. I can't comprehend.
There's something familiar about that spiral. Of course! If we can't find a new leader, I shall make one!
Don't get too excited here, Serpentor won't actually arise for another 3 episodes. Meanwhile, Sergeant Slaughter is convinced by Hawk to whip the Joes back into shape, so we get a montage of sorts.
Now commence running! Move it! Hey, 2, 3, 4! All of you tackle me at once! Move! We've got to remember how to win!
At Cobra headquarters, Mindbender meets with his co-conspirators. Tomax, Zaymat, Destro, and 2 random Cobra officers that don't matter in the slightest. The meeting is being bugged, I see what they did there, by Scrap Iron on behalf of the commander. Mindbender explains his plan, taking DNA from the greatest leaders in history to create a supreme leader. Look, we all know the story, let's not get into how ridiculous the idea is here.
The commander isn't too fond of this idea.
Treachery! I accuse you of vile acts of base treason!
Okay, this next scene has always bothered me.
You lie! My God is loyal!
His Crimson Guards immediately turn on him. You know, the guys who are supposed to be fanatically loyal to him? Sure, that's mostly the file card and the comic, and even there one ended up literally shooting him in the back, but Traitor Fred was an outlier that shouldn't be counted.
My point is, his Crimson Guard shouldn't do this.
But I guess it drives the point home on how the commander has totally screwed up since they do. He lets them proceed, but will keep scheming behind their backs to make sure he comes out on top. A little later, the Joes spot a Cobra Night Raven, so move to intercept. This battle being the first time we see that plane as well as the Conquest. And it's a pretty good dogfight. Cobra ends up losing, with the downed Raven leaving a message pod behind. They find information in there that Zartan has been hired for an unknown but important mission. So important, in fact, that he's been asked to bring in his siblings, Xandar and Zarana, and that he's recruiting at least 1 new Dreadnought.
Hey, I'm glad to see they don't just appear out of nowhere.
The Sarge, Beachhead, and Lowlight go to check it out. To find their new Dreadnought, Zartan is holding a battle royale where the last man standing wins. My bet is on the guy with the most detailed character model. And yup, he just blows up his competition to win.
Use stun grenades!
Right, stun grenades, because this is still the G.I.Joe cartoon.
Another applicant, Thrasher, was staying in the background though, proving he's smarter than the others. This does not sit well with the OG crew.
Which conclusively proves my intelligence, a quality your present dreadnoughts lack totally.
We'll show you who's intelligent, we will!
But before things get too violent, things get violent as the Joes ambush them and discover Cobra's gonna raid the tombs, though not in a sexy way, of history's greatest leaders. Before they can learn more, Thrasher returns, showing off his thunder machine to prove his quality.
To prove my worth, I'll destroy your enemies!
Finish them, and you shall be one of us.
Spoilers for the next episode, but he doesn't do that and still becomes a knock.
Also, bold of him to have already put on Cobra decals on the thing. And so the episode ends with Thrasher bearing down on them for the cliffhanger. And that was Arise, Serpentor Arise Part 1.
And that was a lot!
I mean, I get it, they had to cram the entire 1986 storyline in one episode, so there's a lot of characters to get through, except, they didn't need to do that, since this miniseries has 5 parts. They could have introduced new Joes and Cobras more gradually.
Still, they set up the premise quite well.
And we even got some cool battles, a pro wrestler punching apart Terminators notwithstanding. The animation did get dodgy in places, like at the Battle Royale, where you saw a few off-model Crimson Twins, but it was decent overall. Also, at least they struck a good balance between the older characters and the new ones, unlike, say, Transformers the movie. And I do like the idea of Cobra Commander having screwed up so much they're just gonna replace him.
But it's not exactly a new idea, is it?
In previous stories, Destro, the twins, and even the Baroness have usurped him, though here it looks like they're going for a more permanent solution.
Overall, yeah, this episode was pretty good, and I'm looking forward to more. Well, I'll see you next time, everybody, and hey, why not like, share, and subscribe if that's your thing.
Serpentor, the most evil foe of G.I.Joe.